after eating a meal, it is not normal to want to take a nap, feel lethargic, or just lose energy. Food should be giving you energy rather than taking away from your energy. And when I was 30% body fat and higher, I would eat a slice of bread because I was not insulin sensitive and I was extremely insulin resistant, which means that your body does not do a good job at digesting and optimizing food. More importantly, carbohydrates. So the theory behind you need to eliminate carbohydrates to lose fat, it is valid in some aspect, because when you spike your insulin to a specific, like a little bit too high, especially when it's outside of your training zone, then your body stops when you're at a higher body fat percentage, stops burning fat and works on clearing that glucose out of your bloodstream. And the higher you are in body fat, number one, the longer it's going to take to clear that glucose out of your bloodstream. And number two, the worse the side effects are. So how do you know if your body fat percentage is too high? How do you know if you need to lower it down? And how do you improve your insulin sensitivity so that you can enjoy carbohydrates, enjoy food, but more importantly, use the benefits of being lean and insulin sensitive so that you can optimize food and use it to your benefit to perform better at work, to perform better in your business, to have the energy to do all the other activities outside of work and business that you want to do. You know, you spend time with your kids when you get back from work instead of sitting down on the couch because you're tired and drained from a long days of work, to, you know, going to have the energy to watch your kids' basketball game or soccer game or whatever it may be. You know, you want to go out for dinner with your wife, whatever your goals are, you know, to everybody, to each their own. So the number one thing to improve insulin sensitivity is going to be getting in a low enough body fat percentage, which is typically for men around that 10 to 15%. 10 to 12% is ideal, but you know, you can get away with a lot still being at 15% body fat if you have enough muscle. So get into a calorie deficit, which is number one. How do you get lean? Get into a calorie deficit, stay consistent with that calorie deficit. You don't have to, you know, eliminate foods. Track your foods if you want to eat everything. If you don't want to track your foods, stick to a 90 or even 80-20% split is what I recommend if you don't want to be tracking your foods. Obviously, you'll get the fastest and most accurate and best results if you're tracking your food. But if you're not tracking your food, you don't have the time, nor if you don't want to, then stick to an 80-20% split. 80% of your food is whole foods, single ingredient foods. 20% of your foods, you know, within portions. And then 20% of your food could be whatever you want. Again, with portion control. When I say whatever you want to go out and enjoy a donut, you want to get ice cream, 100% you could do that when it is 20% of your meals, not after every single meal, right? And portion control comes down to understanding serving sizes, which is behind calories, right? Because, for example, I personally don't eat, rarely, I don't want to say never, but like nuts, for example. Nuts are considered a healthy food within the right amount of portions, because like a handful of nuts is 150 calories. And we all know, or we've all been guilty of just grabbing nuts and just eating like a whole cup of them, which ends up being almost like 1,000 calories. So if you don't want to track your calories, understand portions and stick to those portions so that you can still be in a relatively calorie deficit. That moves us on to number 2. How do you improve insulin sensitivity? Build muscle. You don't have to be spending every single day at the gym for, an hour, 2 hours plus. 2 to 4 times a week is plenty to stimulate muscle growth, especially if you are progressively overloading and getting stronger every time that you are at the gym. Improving your muscle size and actually growing your muscles will be the single most important and biggest leverage when it comes to improving your insulin sensitivity, and more importantly, how your body digests and handles food. When I was 30% body fat with like almost no muscle, I would eat a sandwich for breakfast. I loved toast in the morning with some eggs, some bacon, some cheese, a lot of fatty shit. And then ultimately after like 30 minutes of after digesting that meal, I would feel drained. I feel like I needed to take a nap and I would be super lethargic. And I'd think to myself, I'm like, dude, I just woke up. I just had my coffee and I had breakfast. Why am I yawning? Why am I tired? And why do I have this like brain fog, which is kind of preventing me from optimizing and performing in my day in the way that I want to? I'm like forgetting things. I'm like, I feel like I have, like a bunch of things on my mind, and it just wasn't ideal. And I knew I had to change something, or else I wasn't going to hit the goals that I wanted to hit, because I was approaching life like this is the best analogy that I like to use. Your body is a car. Would you rather be in a car that's a Lamborghini or a Toyota Corolla that you just picked up from the junkyard? If your answer is a Lamborghini or whatever your favorite supercar is, imagine putting petrol into your Lamborghini, right? You put petrol into your Lamborghini and then you keep going, you keep racing, you keep driving through your favorite mountains or your favorite roads. That's how it should feel like when you feed your body and it is optimized to handle food, handle carbohydrates, and clear glucose out of your bloodstream with high insulin sensitivity. When you have insulin resistance, you're basically driving a Toyota Corolla that's 25 plus years old with 500,000 kilometers on it that you got for free from the junkyard. You fill it up with petrol, 30 minutes later it needs new brakes, or it just broke down, it needs an oil change, and you're constantly living in a state of needing to go to the mechanic, fixing your Toyota Corolla. Because you're overweight, your body can't absorb food correctly and give you the energy that you require to perform the way that you want to throughout your day. And ironically, it's the same thing with us humans, right? Where if you choose to drive a Toyota Corolla, I'm not saying a brand new one, people, because I know they're reliable. I don't want to get comments, oh, Toyota Corollas are extremely reliable. That's not the point that I'm making. If you choose to drive a Toyota Corolla that's 25 plus years old, which is your body, ironically, you're going to be spending more money at the hospital, at the doctor's office, on prescriptions, on medications, on all these other things that pharmaceutical companies want to sell you in order to just be able to live through life. Not even have the energy and perform the way you do, but just get by. And why would you want to be just getting by when you have the ability, if you get lean enough, if you improve your insulin sensitivity by dropping your fat, building some muscle, eating the correct foods, to perform like a whatever, even if your favorite car isn't a Lamborghini, a McLaren, Bugatti, whatever it may be, that the point isn't the car. The point is the performance and the energy. So obviously, number one, like I mentioned, is getting into a calorie deficit and dropping your body fat percentage. Number two, like I mentioned, build some muscle. Muscle, when you are in a state of building muscle, the food that you eat is being prioritized to repair the muscle that you have damaged in the gym. When I say building muscle, the gym is to stimulate muscle growth, right? Because you tear down your muscles, you break them down in the gym. And then after the gym is when you're actually in your state of recovery, in your state of lower stress, and in the state of refeeding yourself with correct foods. You know, if you have your macros split up correctly, is when you're going to actually be replenishing and building those muscles. And the food that you're eating isn't going to be prioritized to be stored as fat, but rather prioritized to rebuild that muscle. Because obviously, cells that are damaged, your body wants to prioritize replenishing, rebuilding, and recovering those damaged cells. Muscle fibers are just cells at the end of the day that your body wants to heal. And the way that you heal it is through rest, recovery, and nutrition. Put as simply as that. And then lastly, the best way to improve your insulin sensitivity, my favorite as well, is if you aren't lean enough yet, if you aren't at that 10 to 15% body fat range, but you're working your way down there, but you still want to experience what it feels like not to be lethargic, not to be sleepy, not to be just tired after eating a meal. The best thing that I can recommend, which has helped me extremely when I was on my fat loss journey, going down in body fat percentage, was taking 10 to 15 minute walks after my meals. I still try to incorporate this throughout my day to this day. Sometimes, you know, life gets in the way and I can't, but I still make sure to make it a priority to get my 10,000 steps a day. And it's extremely easier now with my Whoop, and it basically is a lot more accurate. So I'm actually extremely happy that I purchased this. And the reason for this is because when you're walking after a meal, your blood sugar spikes, correct? If you didn't know, now you know. Your blood sugar spikes. And the reason your blood sugar spikes is so that your insulin can be released from your pancreas to clear the glucose from your bloodstream. But if you're in a state of relaxation, if you're just laying on the couch after a meal or sitting at your desk, whatever the case may be, your blood flowing through your body and your heart is beating at a slower pace. So when it's beating at a slower pace, it's going to clear that glucose slower. So if your body is clearing that glucose slower, then the energy is going to be affected, and the crash you're going to feel after that insulin spike is going to be a lot deeper or a lot bigger, because it requires energy to clear glucose from your bloodstream. The energy you're going to feel is going to be a lot, the crash is going to be a lot more severe if you had rather helped your body clear that glucose from the bloodstream by simply just raising your heart rate a little bit. And I know there's other methods around that also work as well. You could do like 15 to 30 air squats, which helps a lot as well. Just some sort of movement to get your heart rate up a little bit, and it's going to help you eliminate those 2 p.m. energy crashes where you feel like a zombie and you want to just go to sleep. Like, I'm telling you guys, yesterday I came back from my workout. I ate, I shit you not, like 350 grams of rice. I'd like to track my stuff because I like to know what I'm putting into my body. So I ate 350 grams of rice. I felt like a little Asian wonton from the amount of rice that I was eating. But the point is, when I was 30% body fat, when I would eat such enormous amount of carbohydrates and just like food, I also had some chicken breast with it as well, I would just pass out after a meal like that. The meal was like, I don't know how to picture it to you guys, but imagine like a little bit bigger or roughly the same size as like a Chipotle bowl, if you've ever had one. Just imagine a Chipotle bowl. I had an entire Chipotle bowl. Prior to being this lean, I would need to like, okay, guys, I need to chill out. I needed to, like, if I was with my buddies or if I was by myself, I'd be like thinking to myself, okay, I need to chill out. I need to digest this food and not do anything else for the rest of the day. Dude, after this meal yesterday, and there's I have plenty of examples, but like I'm just using this one specifically because yesterday was a huge training day session and I wanted a little bit more food and I was just observing how I felt. Ate it all, digested it, went straight back to work without any energy crashes. And then I worked from like 2:30 p.m. till 7 p.m. completely wired. And that's just like the benefits of being lean. So sure, there's, you get the confidence of being lean. You get the just looking and respecting and the self-esteem that you have for yourself when you look in the mirror and actually are proud of the reflection and the man that's there. But it's also a key, at least in my opinion, maybe performance and energy might not be what you're after, but for me, energy and performance is extremely important. And when I don't want to, rely on Monsters, Red Bulls, and things like that for energy. Like, don't get me wrong, I still love my black coffee, but that's besides the point. The performance, the mental clarity that you get from being at a lower body fat percentage, if it doesn't but if it doesn't come close to, it's even sometimes even better than the confidence and just looking good. Like, you were put on this earth, at least in my opinion, to serve, to help others, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, a businessman, an engineer. Like, we spend most of our life, like so much time of our life, working. And if you're like me and you love what you do, I'm in sales. I love sales. I love, helping other people and solving problems. If you love what you do, why would you not want to perform at the best of your ability of what you do? Imagine if you're good at what you do right now and you're 50 pounds overweight. Imagine how much better you would be at your job if you had the energy and performance and like mental clarity of a Lamborghini. Right? Like, you could still get it done, and I'm sure you're in a way successful in what you're doing and you love what you do. But imagine that next level, right? Imagine not having those burdens like, oh, I'm so tired. I've just been dealing with clients, patients, or people all day. I just want to go home and relax and take a nap. Imagine if you just, spoken to, let's say you're a lawyer. Let's say you've just spoken to 15 clients and it's like 2 p.m. And instead of thinking those negative thoughts, instead of thinking, oh my God, why do I got to keep going? I'm so tired. I still have like 10 appointments to deal with. Imagine if you had like the energy that you had when you were like 15, 20 years old, all cracked up on sugar and like that hyper awareness and hyper energy, just because you were not experiencing that brain fog, that energy crash, and you had the energy to actually keep going. And you felt good about continuously keeping going, and you wanted to keep going because you're, number one, feeding your body with the right stuff, right? We are what we feed ourselves, and the quality of your thoughts and the energy that you put out is just all based on what you input. If like the day that I heard this is the day that I changed my life, and was extremely, like, I started paying attention to what it was that I was consuming, because you are a reflection and a representation and a byproduct of what you consume. Not only when it comes to the media that you consume, right? Like, look at all these people watching all the news and stuff like that. They're constantly terrified. They're constantly, oh, the world's gonna end. Yeah, buddy, the world was gonna end 30 years ago. We're still here. We're still living. You're just being put through mass psychosis to have your brain rewired to think in fear rather than opportunity, right? Because if you're thinking in opportunity and you're living your day-to-day life without consuming that, for example, news, politics, etc., of like fear, all the bad things that are going on in the world, because fear and bad things sell, right? Like, that's why you don't see anything on the news that's like positive and good, because then it wouldn't get clicks and then they wouldn't be able to advertise and make money off of you. At the end of the day, it all just comes down to money and views. Bad news sells, bad news gets attention, and that's why media channels that talk about all this bad stuff that are going around the world are the most popular ones. But that's besides the point. The point is, you consume it, and then you're thinking in this loop of fear. It's the same thing with social media. When I was consuming constantly like fitness content and just like watching other people's physiques and bodies and thinking to myself, like, I would only see like the people on like crazy drugs, steroids, and all these like top level athletes that were like single digit body fat percentage just because they were abusing all these like steroids and drugs and like sitting at like 5%, and then I'd compare myself and feel shitty about myself. I stopped consuming that content, and immediately I started feeling better about myself. I started being more confident, being more accepting of the physique that I have, rather than being in a constant state of comparison. It's the same thing with, you see all these reality and drama shows and people posting their relationships on social media and posting the highlights of it all, and showing people, oh my gosh, like, we have such a perfect relationship. Oh my gosh, like, this is how love should be. Like, honey, it's all bullshit. Like, everybody goes through things. Everybody has problems. At the end of the day, it comes down to communication and being happy with what you've got going on in your life, your business, your finances, your love life, and focusing on that rather than putting your energy and external focus onto everything else that's outside of your life. And also, to kind of like conclude the point that I was trying to make, not only like the media, the friends, the gossip that you're around, that's why like women in other men that like gossip together. They're just filled with like negative, like gossip is just negative, and if you're consuming gossip, you're just going to be a gossiper, and you're just going to, you know, what is gossip? Gossip is never a good thing. You're never talking about like other people in a good way. You're talking about other people in a bad way. Oh, did you hear or see what so-and-so did there? See what so-and-so did there? And if you're in that like spiral of negativity, of talking shit about other people, of course you're going to be in a lower frequency, and you're going to have, number one, low energy, but then like a negative mindset and reframe towards life. Because instead of seeing the good or talking about the good in people, or even like the good in yourself, you're talking or referencing the bad things that are going on in people's life, or the things that you might be jealous of, or the things that you might be wishing that you had, that they had, etc. Whatever it may be. But the point that I'm trying to make is that it comes down exactly to your food as well. The things that you consume will directly correlate how you feel, how you perform. And if you're eating low quality foods, if you're consuming that, it's not only going to be reflected in your weight, right? Because it's extremely hard to eat 1,000 calories of rice. It's extremely hard to eat 1,000 calories of chicken. It's almost impossible to eat 1,000 calories of broccoli. But it is so easy to eat 1,000 calories of ice cream. Trust me, I've done it in sub 3 minutes. And it not only reflects in like your body, the way that you look, but also the way that you think, the way that you feel about yourself, and also the energy that you have throughout the day. So I know I went on a little bit of like a yapping session and tangent there, but to kind of conclude and put finish the video off with like a nice bow. Improve your insulin sensitivity by getting into a calorie deficit, building muscle, working out, walking after each meal, keeping your steps high, and then just overall watch your consumption. I know your consumption, your consumption of food is going to directly correlate with how insulin sensitive you are going to be, because the better that you consume, the lower the body fat you're going to be at, and the better that you're going to be able to partition and digest and handle food. But the media, the relationships, and the other tangent was just something completely onto the side that I wanted to use to prove the point of food consumption. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm going to leave you like I always do. Create more than you consume, serve others, love everybody. You were put on this planet to serve. God put you here for a reason. Serve at whatever you're doing with the most gratitude, the most joy, and to the best of your ability, with the most energy and positivity. Share this video with somebody that you think that is going to benefit from it, because it's word of mouth referrals that are going to grow the channel. I love each and every one of you. Until next time, God bless. Peace.